For generations, we've known one story about Indian higher education, haven't we? The brightest minds heading west, looking for a world-class degree and a new life. It was always a one-way street, this brain drain that reshaped families and fortunes. But that current is, well, it's changing. In fact, today we're seeing a great reversal. The world's top universities are now coming to India.
That's exactly right. It's a massive shift. And it begs the big question, which is really at the heart of Dr. Eshan Arya's incredible research. Why are so many ambitious Indian students, who traditionally would have done almost anything to study overseas, now choosing to get that global education but at home? It's a puzzle that tells us so much about the future of education, work, and global ambition.
Okay, so let's break this down. To really get what's happening now, we have to look at why that old dream was starting to, well, fall apart at the seams. The traditional path, packing your bags and heading to Australia, the US, or the UK, has become loaded with new pressures and some pretty serious risks.
Exactly. And this really lays it out. The promise was always so clear, wasn't it? A prestigious degree, which would hopefully lead to permanent residency and, of course, higher earnings. But the reality today, it's a lot tougher. We're talking about absolutely skyrocketing tuition fees that put a crushing weight on families, visa policies that are just so unpredictable, and a really painful problem of underemployment after graduation.
And that problem of underemployment, it became this really painful cliché. Dr. Arya's research brings up this powerful image, the taxi driver with a master's degree. It just perfectly captures that frustrating gap between the dream and the reality for so many skilled graduates. They get the degree, they achieve the migration dream, only to find themselves stuck in jobs that have nothing to do with their skills.
Right, but the pressure wasn't only coming from overseas. Back in India, students were dealing with a whole other set of frustrations. You've got what Dr. Arya calls the exam maze, these unbelievably high-stakes, hyper-competitive entrance tests for the top universities. And then, layered right on top of that is the incredibly complex and socially sensitive reservation system, which you might know as caste-based quotas.
And all of this created a very specific group of students, which Dr. Arya's work calls the excess merit cohort. Now, these are really talented, high-achieving students who just feel completely squeezed. I mean, from one side, they're facing these brutal exam cutoffs, and from the other, they feel locked out by a quota system they just don't see as fair. For them, studying abroad wasn't just an aspiration, it felt like their only escape hatch.
So you've got this perfect storm, right? The path abroad is getting riskier and the system at home feels blocked. So a third way starts to emerge, the foreign university setting up a branch campus right there in India. And what's really fascinating is who is choosing this option. It's not just one type of student. The research shows us a much more strategic and varied picture.
And this slide just breaks down those findings so well. Dr. Arya points to 4 distinct groups. First, you've got the stage-gate migrants. Think of them as playing the long game, using the Indian campus as a safer, cheaper launch pad for migrating later on. Then, the biggest group, the global but grounded. They want that international brand name, but they refuse to sacrifice being close to family and culture. The career maximizers are all business, laser-focused on the return on investment. And finally, the merit-driven seekers, who are really just trying to find a way around that domestic system we talked about.
And look, underneath all of these different motivations, one thing is crystal clear: money talks. A huge 82% of the students surveyed saw these campuses in India as a much more financially realistic option for their families. It's really about getting that global prestige, but without the crippling global price tag.
But, and this is a really crucial point, just because they're staying in India, it doesn't mean they've given up on the world. Not at all. A massive 69% still expect a clear, guaranteed pathway to work or study overseas once they graduate. So the campus might be in India, but the ambition is still absolutely global.
There's also a pretty clear political dimension to this choice. A big majority of students, 61%, firmly believe admissions to these new campuses should be based purely on merit. That means without the caste-based reservation policies you see in Indian public universities. They see this as a potential meritocratic sanctuary, if you will. Now, it's easy to misunderstand this point, but what's really interesting is that this isn't a simple rejection of social equity. The research shows that nearly half of the students actually support targeted financial aid for disadvantaged groups. So their preference is for support based on socioeconomic need, rather than the more rigid, inherited structure of caste. It's a much more nuanced position than it first appears.
So when you start to put all of these pieces of the puzzle together, you can really see the core strategy taking shape. This isn't about choosing India over the West. It's about finding a way to build a global career while staying anchored to your Indian roots. Honestly, it's a completely new way of thinking about what international education can be.
Yeah. And for these students, a term like global exposure isn't just some marketing buzzword. It's a list of non-negotiables. They expect a mandatory semester abroad. They expect regular visits from international faculty. And most importantly, they expect real internships and strong partnerships with global companies. The brand name on the degree is simply not enough. It has to be backed up by tangible global experience.
And this really brings us to the central insight of this whole thing. Let's be really clear. These students are not rejecting Western education or global opportunities. What they are rejecting is the immense financial cost, the professional risk, and the deep personal uncertainty that now comes with that traditional path of full-scale migration.
Dr. Arya's research gives this whole new mindset a perfect name: mobility without displacement. It just captures the goal so well. It's all about getting those globally portable skills, the credentials, to work anywhere in the world, but without having to completely uproot your entire life and support system to get them.
Which really leaves us with this one powerful question, and it comes straight from the students themselves. If the pathway to a global career can start in India, why uproot my entire life? This isn't just a small shift in education. It's a fundamental reimagining of what ambition looks like for a whole new generation. It's global education reimagined, with Indian feet firmly on the ground, but with foreign brains ready to expand worldwide.